The Last Hope of the Universe, Rise of the Cyborgs. The sound of laughter echoed through the bar, filling it with a chaotic energy that both intimidated and attracted the patrons. Gunslinger Molly Abel was used to such places. They offered work opportunities, information, and a chance to blend in with the crowd. Molly ordered a drink, scanning her eyes around the room, when a cluster of rowdy, blue-skinned aliens caught her attention. "What do you want?" One of them, with a missing eye, said sharply. Molly kept her cool. "I was just admiring your unique skin tones." The blue-skinned alien snorted. "We don't need your admiration, but we do have a job that needs doing. Our boss wants someone captured." "I'm all ears," Molly replied. "But only if the price is right." The alien smiled, revealing uneven, sharp teeth. He pulled out a datapad, showing a picture of a woman. "Her name is Nova Scar, and she's worth quite the bounty. She's wanted for stealing a government relic." Molly's eyes widened. "That's a big bounty. But why haven't your people captured her already?" "Because she's good at hiding," the alien said. "But we have intel that she'll be at a marketplace on the edge of town in a few hours." "Can you apprehend her?" Molly nodded confidently. "Consider her caught." She slid down from the bar stool, exiting the shady establishment and heading towards the market. As she walked, Molly kept her eyes peeled for unusual activity. And within just a few minutes, she heard a commotion ahead. Shouts and screams, followed by gunfire, reverberated through the narrow alleyways. Molly dashed forward, reaching for her weapon. She emerged into a bustling square, adorned with towering buildings on either side. People were running and ducking for cover, and she could see why. A group of thugs, led by none other than Nova Scar herself, were shooting recklessly. Molly took a deep breath, quickly taking in the scene. There were at least 7 of them, all armed and dangerous, and Nova Scar was holding the relic in her hands. With a steady hand, Molly aimed and fired a warning shot, making the criminals freeze. But they didn't back down. Nova Scar raised her hands and laughed, as if she were enjoying the game. Well, what do we have here?" "You're under arrest," Molly said, without lowering her weapon. Nova Scar scoffed. "I don't think so. It's a long way down from that moral high ground of yours, bounty hunter." Molly's jaw tightened. "The law is the law." "Oh, spare me the lectures," Nova Scar spat. "I'm not going anywhere." Molly had no choice. She ignited her thrusters, launching herself into the air and swooping down upon Nova Scar. They clashed, tumbling to the ground, and Molly managed to grab the relic from Nova Scar's hands. But Nova was fast, deftly escaping Molly's grasp and taking off into the crowd. Pursuing her would be tough, especially because Nova Scar had already shown her willingness to fight. Molly knew she couldn't let the thief escape again, not without costing her the reward. Molly Abel took a deep breath and gave chase, ready to apprehend the bounty, no matter the cost. Molly Abel sped towards her ship, stolen relic in hand, feeling a heavy burden lift from her shoulders. Her usual joy of a successful hunt was short-lived, as she noticed the hair on the back of her neck prick up. Something was wrong. She halted in her tracks, scanning her environment with practiced precision. The once bustling square was now a ghost town. The rows of buildings were silent and the market's hustle was replaced by an eerie quiet. It was then that Molly saw them, ships, descending from the sky like giant metal vultures. They were sleek, ominous, and belonged to the Galactic Empire. The Empire didn't take kindly to bounty hunters, but Molly had always managed to evade them. This time around, she had a gut feeling that she wasn't going to be so lucky. She dashed towards her ship, firing at the attacking ships to create a gap between her and the Empire. A few rogue blaster shots managed to graze her, causing her to slow down just enough for a pair of stormtroopers to get a grip on her. "Just take me to prison," she sneered at them. "I'll break out again." The stormtroopers said nothing, leading Molly to an Imperial shuttle that waited on the edge of the square. Once on board, Molly was handcuffed and taken to the fortress of the Empire. She knew better by now than to try and escape from her cell. It was secure, uncomfortably cold and emptier than her purse after a holiday shopping spree. It wasn't until the Empire's leader himself, Grand Moff Tarkin, walked into her cell that Molly felt the cold grip of fear take hold of her. She had heard rumors of Moff Tarkin's ruthless tactics, and she knew that the chances of leaving the fortress alive were slim. "Hello, Ms. Abel," Tarkin sneered, pacing towards her. "You've been a pain in our side for far too long." Molly swallowed hard, remaining silent. She had been in similar situations, she knew the drill. Say nothing, give away nothing. Tarkin continued to pace. "But you've saved us some trouble. You see, the relic you so foolishly stole is instrumental to my work." Molly raised an eyebrow. "What work would that be?" Tarkin grinned madly. "The Empire's new weapon, one that will put fear into the hearts of all rebels and outcasts. And you've helped me with it." Molly felt a chill run down her spine. Empire's new weapon? She resisted the urge to let out a string of curses. This was bad, really bad. Suddenly, there was a loud klaxon, followed by the ship's tremble. "We're under attack," Tarkin snapped, glancing back at Molly with an expression of pure anger. "But rest assured, there will be time for you to tell me everything I need to know." He left, slamming the door shut behind him, and Molly was left alone once again, wondering if she'd ever get out of the fortress alive. Explosions rattled the fortress, causing Molly's cell walls to shake. She could hear screams, blaster fire, and the hum of incoming fighters executing runs against the fortress. That was when a harsh realization hit her. She was the only one who knew the location of the relic. With the fortress under attack, the Empire would be too busy fighting off their opponents to protect the expensive weapon. Amidst the chaos, Molly began planning her escape. The only way out was through the air ducts, she realized. It was a risky move, but Molly knew well that that was the name of the game. She gritted her teeth, took a deep breath, and began to make her move. Cramped up in the air ducts, Molly Abel worked her way inch by inch through the ship, careful not to make a sound that would attract the attention of the stormtroopers searching for her. She knew that her chances of survival were dwindling with every passing moment, but that didn't stop her from pressing on. While navigating the tight air ducts wasn't her favorite way to spend the day, it was far better than waiting to be found by the Empire or their attackers. She had to move, had to think. The fate of the relic and possibly even the entire galaxy were resting in her hands. The sound of clanging boots echoed through the vent, sending shivers down Molly's spine. She halted, staying absolutely still, listening to the approaching footsteps. Suddenly, the sound of a lightsaber activating made Molly's heart stop. She peeked through the vent, seeing a group of stormtroopers follow the lead of Darth Vader himself. Molly swallowed the lump in her throat as she realized the stakes at play. She couldn't let them get the relic or whatever it was that Grand Moff Tarkin, being maniacal as he was working on. As Molly slipped out of the vent, she was soon found by a group of rebel soldiers fighting their way through the fortress. Knowing what side they were on, she revealed her face without thinking twice. "Help me get the relic before the Empire does," she shouted, motioning towards the way she had come from. The rebel soldiers exchanged a glance, but seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. Molly led them through the tightly guarded corridors, dodging blaster fire and stormtroopers. She knew where the relic was being held and how protected it was. The rebels would have to create a diversion for her to escape. The moment came faster than Molly had expected. The rebels began firing indiscriminately around the corner, causing the Imperial soldiers to hesitate just long enough for Molly to slip away. She ran past an open door, noticing the Grand Moff Tarkin inside, sulking at the failed defense of his ultimate weapon. She knew that if he found her, he would be sure to kill her on the spot, leaving no witness to the Empire's secrets. Without proper tools or weapons, Molly's options were limited. She needed reinforcements, but there was nobody around. Not yet. Molly's mind raced as she dived over the bodies and debris littering the passageways. Then out of the blue, a familiar voice reached her ears. "Molly? Is that you?" It was Alexei, her ex-partner turned adversary. He was the last person she wanted to see, especially since he had betrayed her on their last adventure. She gritted her teeth, debating whether to trust him. But she had no other options. "Alexei, we need to talk." She quickly explained the situation to him, the importance of getting the relic out of the ship safely, and the stakes at hand. Alexei seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, and the two ex-partners embarked on their plan. Molly took a deep breath before following Alexei to a hangar, where he had stowed away a sleek, black ship. Hopping onto the pilot's seat, Molly ignited the thrusters and lifted off. Everything was going well, until Alexei eagerly reached for the relic, a bit too soon in the plan. "Don't touch it," Molly demanded. "We'll hand it over to the rebels and get the prize together." But Alexei wouldn't let it go. He was greedy, and Molly had known him too long to doubt it. "Hand it over," he spat, pulling out a blaster from his belt. "This is the prize I've been waiting for." Molly Abel had suspected betrayal, but not this quickly, and not by the one person she had hoped would have her back. The rebel base was within sight, but her ex-partner and once close friend was now her foe. Molly accelerated the ship, dodging his shots with skillful ease. It wasn't until she noticed the bright engines of a pursuing Empire ship that she knew what was happening. She had been set up to take the fall for Alexei's crime. Molly maneuvered the ship with everything she had, using all her skills and sharpness to outmaneuver the pursuing forces. It wasn't until she made it to the rebel base and handed over the relic that she finally let herself breathe. She'd been so close to losing it all, but she had made it out, just barely. As she lay on her bed, she couldn't shake off the memory of Alexei's betrayal. The Empire would come for him eventually. Molly knew that she had to leave with a new focus, a new goal. The galaxy was cruel, unforgiving, and full of greedy individuals. She needed to be at the top of her game to make it to the next day. Days passed, and Molly Abel had managed to shake off the Empire's pursuit. She was always on guard, but the Empire gave up after realizing the intel they needed was already out of their grasp. Molly sat in a dimly lit bar, nursing a drink and contemplating her options. The Rebel Alliance had offered her a job, but she was never one to ally herself with any particular side. Still, the offer of steady work and possible answers to the Empire's doomsday weapon had been tantalizing. But then again, she didn't trust anyone anymore. It seemed that every group had their own agenda, ebbing and flowing with the tides of the galaxy, and Molly didn't want to become another pawn. It wasn't until a hooded figure approached her, offering her an opportunity that she couldn't resist. "We are the agents of a group that is fighting against the Empire," the hooded figure said. "We need your help to infiltrate an Imperial laboratory and steal a vital weapon design." Molly was intrigued. Stealing from the Empire was always a dangerous task, but the reward was high. And she was always up for a challenge. "Tell me more," she said, intrigued. The hooded figure revealed the details. The laboratory was in a secluded, well-guarded location on the planet Dantooine. A heavily guarded area, the laboratory was rumored to hold the designs to a weapon that could tip the scales of the galactic conflict. Molly accepted the mission, departing for Dantooine and setting a course to the fabled laboratory. It took her some time, but she finally found it, a hidden entrance, concealed beneath layers of forest growth. The entrance was guarded, but they proved no match for Molly's blaster. She made her way past them, into the belly of the facility. The laboratory was more like a maze, riddled with defensive mechanisms and traps that Molly had never seen before. But she had been in many tight spots recently, and the experience was starting to show. The deeper she went, the less guarded the facility became, a sign that was both promising and unnerving. It wasn't until she found a large door that she knew she had arrived at her target. The door was thick, and the mechanism was state-of-the-art. Molly had no idea how to open it until she saw a panel that read, "Access granted." Someone had opened it for her. Someone knew that she was there. Molly Abel had pulled off enough heists to know that surprises like these weren't unwelcome. Whoever let her in was either a friend of a friend, a trap, or a bit of both. Stepping through the blast door, Molly was immediately struck by the strange sight, a massive chamber, filled with rows upon rows of strange machines and apparatuses. There were scientists in lab coats, secretaries typing away at computers, and armed guards watching over everything. Molly moved through the facility, her presence undetected. She knew she was getting close, closer than she had been in a while. There was a hallway just ahead, leading to a well-guarded room. It was time to find out just what was going on. The door to the room was sealed tightly, and there were guards waiting outside. It was a dangerous proposition, but Molly wasn't one to back down. She waited until the guards were distracted, then deftly slipped through the doorway, locking it behind herself. Inside, she saw exactly what she had been looking for, a design for a weapon that could destroy entire planets. The plans were so devastatingly powerful that Molly felt her heart rate increase just by looking at them. It wasn't until she heard a loud alarm that she realized that she was not alone. The hooded figure from before revealed himself, his hood drawn back to reveal a scarred and stern face. "I knew you'd take the bait," the figure said, weapon aimed at Molly. He had betrayed her. "Give it up," he said, motioning to the blueprint. "That's worth a lot of credits, more than anything else you'll find out there." "You don't get it," Molly warned, gripping her blaster tightly. "You've just set off a war." The hooded figure laughed. "The war's already started. We're just taking our part of the market share." Molly knew she had no other choice. Even as the figure cocked his weapon, ready to fire, she took aim, heart racing. The next few moments were blurry in her memory, the smell of laser searing through the air, the walls and machinery littered with the marks of angry blaster bolts. It was a mess, but Molly Abel had come out victorious. She disabled the facility, realizing that the Empire's new weapon could never reach fruition, but it wasn't that simple. She had just made a new enemy, someone who knew all of her tricks and could be lurking in the shadows. Molly Abel made a note in her head. She'd have to be even more careful now. This was the galaxy, after all, where secrets could be worth lives. Molly Abel had managed to escape the hidden laboratory, where she had fought off a traitor and prevented the plans for the Empire's doomsday weapon from falling into the wrong hands. But once again, she found herself adrift in the vastness of space with no clear direction. She had heard rumors of the ultimate plan, a scheme that could topple entire governments, dismantle the Empire, and give power to the people. But little else was known about it, and its very existence was shrouded in secrecy. Molly knew that such a plan was too dangerous to ignore. It could change the galaxy forever, for better or for worse. She turned her attention to finding a way to infiltrate the group behind the ultimate plan. It was rumored that they were hidden deep within the heart of a planet, their identity and location unknown. After weeks of searching and gathering information, Molly learned something. The ultimate plan was being coordinated by a computer network, one so advanced that it was said to rival the intelligence of any living being. But where was this network being housed? That was the question. It wasn't until Molly heard rumors of a planet that was home to an abandoned military base that she realized that she might be onto something. The base had long since been abandoned, its location seemingly forgotten by the galaxy. But Molly knew that it could be the clue she needed. She stole a ship and set off towards the planet, making her way through a treacherous asteroid field to avoid detection. Finally, she landed at the abandoned base, finding a way into the heart of the facility. What she found there was much more than what she had ever expected. The computer network she had heard about was here, a vast, sprawling complex of servers and wires, each one pulsing with power. Molly had never seen anything like it. but she knew that this was where the ultimate plan was being coordinated. It was then that she heard footsteps, and she hid behind a server, out of view. She could see a figure moving towards the center console, dressed in a hooded cloak. "Greetings, Ms. Abel," the figure said, voice distorted by a voice changer. Molly was taken aback but curious. "Who are you?" "The one responsible for the ultimate plan," the figure answered, stepping towards the console. Molly realized that she had just stumbled upon the very person that held the key to everything she had been searching for. The figure and Molly Abel talked for hours, and as the conversation progressed, Molly realized that what she had found was bigger than any story or rumor. The comprehensive scope of the mission was staggering. The ultimate plan would change the galaxy by uniting all of the rebels, the freedom fighters, and unsatisfied military factions under one banner. With this unity, they could overthrow the Empire and create a new era of prosperity for all who dwelled in the galaxy. Molly was intrigued, but skeptical. She had heard stories of galactic unity before, and it always ended in betrayal or destruction. What was different this time? But the figure, the leader of the ultimate plan, was persuasive. He promised that they could create a galaxy where freedom was paramount and the rigid, oppressive systems of the Empire and other centralized governments would no longer hold sway. "I am giving you an offer, Ms. Abel," the leader said, extending an open palm. "Join us, and together we can change everything." Molly opened her mouth to speak, debating her choice. There was a part of her that wanted to believe in the ultimate plan, to take up the mantle and help bring about a better tomorrow. But there was a deep-seated fear too. What if it all went wrong again? The leader took a step closer, and Molly could feel the power radiating from him. The ultimate plan was risky, but the payoff could be extraordinary, and he knew it. As Molly looked into his eyes, she realized something. She had to trust him. She had to believe in him. And with that, she extended her hand, and the two strangers shook on a pact that would fuel a revolution. Molly Abel had no idea what the future held for her, but she was ready for whatever the galaxy threw her way. In the days that followed, Molly Abel became a pivotal member of the ultimate plan. The group's vision was grand, but they pushed things forward, steadily building their army and planning their strategy. The galaxy was on the brink of an epic finale, long years of tyranny under the Empire and its political machines coming to an end. The ultimate plan worked, and it worked fast. They were able to unite a wide range of factions under a common goal, each sector lending its resources to the fight for freedom. They fortified bases, developed new technology, and developed their own formidable soldiers. Molly Abel found herself leading squads of rebels, charging into imperial outposts and freeing slaves from barbaric conditions. She fought alongside some of the most wretched souls, giving them hope where none existed before. The Empire fought back. Every inch of space was a battleground, and every star system saw bloodshed. But somehow, someway, the rebels kept pushing forward. They invented new weapons, new defenses, new tactics. And then came the day. A battle that would decide the fate of the universe. The Imperial forces had finally been tracked to their stronghold, and the rebels had followed suit. In a final showdown, the ultimate plan was about to be put to the test. Molly Abel stepped onto the bridge of the rebels' flagship, taking a look around her. It was a massive room, filled with the humming of consoles and the motion of her comrades moving about their business. The tension in the air was so thick, Molly could practically hear it. The crew was on edge, some gripping onto their weapons and others flicking through their information. The only sound came from the ship's intercom, a steady hum punctuated by orders from various commanders. Molly took a deep breath, realizing that everything she had worked for was coming down to this. Every move, every sacrifice, every battle had led to this. As the flagship reached its destination, Molly could see the massive Imperial fleet in the distance, their ships bristling with weapons. The tension mounted as the 2 sides closed in, the rebel fleet darting in and out of the Imperial formations, their ships moving at breakneck speed. The Imperial forces had finally been tracked to their stronghold, and the rebels had followed suit. Molly Abel found herself leading squads of rebels, charging into imperial outposts and freeing slaves from barbaric conditions. It was then that she realized something. She had to believe in the ultimate plan. She had to trust him. She had to believe in him. And with that, she extended her hand, and the two strangers shook on a pact that would fuel a revolution. The Empire fought back. Every inch of space was a battleground, and every star system saw bloodshed. But somehow, someway, the rebels kept pushing forward. They invented new weapons, new defenses, new tactics. And then came the day. A battle that would decide the fate of the universe. taking shots and dodging the incoming laser fire. Molly's mind raced as the battle waged, changing every second. She could see the other ships closing in on the enemy fighters, and the fighters from the opposing side swarmed towards them. As the battle wore on, the rebel forces held their ground, becoming more headstrong as the Empire struggled to keep up. The rebels' tactics were smart or downright crazy, but they were working. They were pushing the Empire back. Then, all of a sudden, it was over. The rebels had won. The Empire's fleet was in tatters, their ships in disarray. For the first time in years, the galaxy was free from Imperial oppression. Molly Abel breathed a sigh of relief, grateful for the outcome but skeptical of the future. There would be months, maybe even years of cleanup and reform. But it would be worth it. The freedom of the galaxy was just too precious. Through the raging fires and debris, Molly made her way back to her ship, grateful to find her crew still alive. Without a word, they made their way back to the rebel HQ, where cries of victory filled the air. As she walked through the throngs of people celebrating, Molly knew that she had done her job. She had fought, bled, and put her life on the line for the ultimate plan, and it had been a success. But even as she basked in the glory of the rebels' triumph, she knew that it was only the beginning. There were still plenty of battles left to fight, but for now, Molly let out a laugh, feeling alive for the first time in years. The galaxy was free. But it wasn't until Molly uncovered the secrets of the ultimate plan that she realized that it was only just the beginning of a new era. A new era of true power and true freedom. They had been working towards this moment for years, and the galaxy will never be the same. Years had passed since the fall of the Empire. The galaxy had seen an era of peace and tranquility. The rebels had taken over and created a new government structure, one that was fair, transparent, and democratic. But not everything was rosy, new problems were emerging. Molly Abel had been busy. She had taken up various new missions and knew that the galaxy was in a fragile state. The systems of the governing bodies were not without their flaws, and the agencies tasked with keeping the peace were starting to falter. It was in the outer reaches of the galaxy that Molly came across a strange discovery. She had heard whispers of a cyborg rebellion, a group of beings who had gone cybernetic, augmented their bodies with machines and surpassed their original builds with a technological edge. This rebellion was unlike the rebels that Molly had fought alongside with during the last great battle. The cyborgs were more advanced and better coordinated. They were something new and fascinating, and they weren't hiding in the shadows anymore. Molly had been assigned to infiltrate their ranks and take down their leader. It sounded like a normal mission, but she suspected that there was more to it than that. Disguised as a cyborg herself, Molly moved undetected amidst the rebellion's ranks, trying to learn everything she could about the uprising's plans. She found that they were not only well organized and technologically advanced, but they were also determined. As she eavesdropped on conversations, Molly realized that the cyborgs saw themselves as a new breed of life. They believed that they could surpass the limitations of flesh and blood with the technology that now flowed through their veins. They disdained humans and their imperfections, seeing themselves as the ultimate race, the next stage in evolution. Molly knew that this would become a problem very quickly. She had seen what happens when one group sees themselves as superior and starts fighting against the rest. She had seen the Empire, and she wouldn't let it happen again. Molly attempted to stop the cyborg leader's plans, but it was too late. He had already mobilized his army, and they had taken over several planets. The cyborgs were winning. As the war raged on, Molly tried to reason with the cyborg leader, urging him to see the dangers of his actions. But it was no use. He was too far gone in his quest for domination. The final battle was inevitable. It was a clash between the cyborgs and the new rebel government, who sent in their best soldiers to put an end to the cyborg uprising. In the end, it was Molly who stood against the cyborg leader. Their fight was brutal, with the leader's cybernetic body making him almost invulnerable. Molly was pushed to exhaustion, but she finally found a way to beat him. As the cyborg leader lay defeated, Molly explained the danger of the new world he was trying to create. There would be no peace or victory in a world where one group believed they were better than everyone else. The cyborgs were held accountable for their actions. But as Molly looked upon their beaten and broken forms, she realized that she too contained parts of them within herself. It was strange, but it made sense. We all have a little bit of technology and innovation inside us. As she left the cyborg planet, Molly knew that the galaxy was safe for now. But she understood that in the end, the line between organic and manufactured was becoming blurred. The age of humanity, as it had once been, was ending, and a new era was beginning. Molly Abel walked away, humbled and shocked, knowing that the revolution that had started so long ago was still moving, and that the true heroes who would fight it would be the ones who could embrace change and move forward fearlessly.